Hello and welcome to everyone. Welcome to Impulse Talks, coming to you live from Paris. I am Thomas Le Duron, very happy to host this series of events, especially today talking about innovation in the smart city. Pauline, can we have the slide now? Our ambition is to provide an international overview of innovative and tech development in the smart city. Each month, we will be featuring one of the best startups companies, along with testimonies from industry leaders and perspectives from VC investors. The program for today, coming up today, we'll hear from Italy. Gianluca from Covivio will introduce one of Covivio's innovative projects in Italy. And then 4 entrepreneurs from Portugal, Switzerland, and Germany will showcase their innovations. And as a conclusions, we will hear from Nicolas from Dubai, where Shibumi International, the global VC in construction, will give us its perspective on ventures in the digital construction. It's a 1-hour session. We'll have a few minutes for Q&A at the end of the session if you want to stay. And the session is going to be recorded. So if you want to share it afterwards, you can always use the. We have currently 44 people online and more than 150 registered participants. You can see the list of some of them. As you can see, it's coming from a variety of countries. Our ambition is really to relay what is happening on the innovation scene on the European stage. Before we start, a few introductory words about Impulse Partners. We are passionate about innovation in construction. We know it's one of the biggest sectors in the world. It remains largely under-optimized because it's highly fragmented, it's ruled by local regulations, and globally unable to address the challenges on environmental challenges or cost and productivity challenges. We are convinced that there is a huge opportunity for innovation and startups in that field, and that they can help reshape the industry and in terms of sustainability and efficiency. Our role at Impulse Partner is to detect the most promising tech companies and to connect them with the market. So we simply act as an intermediary or a facilitator between large corporates that have needs and startup companies that have innovations they need to push. We've been working with most of the largest names in the industry in our focus sector. We've worked with over 1,000 startups, and we've helped those startups accelerate their go-to-market. Part of our job is to bring people together, and this is exactly what we are doing today across the value chain and across geographies, because we have online at least 10 countries connecting in the same event. A few words about the scope of today. So we'll be talking about innovation in the smart city. As you can see on this slide, smart city has various objectives, which we have qualified as a sustainable, mobile, resilient, citizen, and frugal. And on each of those dimensions, there are a certain number of innovative and tech that can have impact. And the idea is to help those startups develop and test those impact through the public sectors, the citizens, and the corporate, because each of those parties have a role to play. We are convinced that all the players in the value chain can be impacted by what is happening on smart city innovation, and all of them have the responsibility to evaluate the potential for transformation of those innovations. Next slide, please. Yes, we'd like to thank our distribution partners. So they are relaying the information about those webinars, and they give the information to members of the network. So many of attendees are coming from those networks. So thank you again. Next slide, please. We'd love to hear from you, your feedback. So at the end of this event, we will introduce again this link. do not hesitate to comment, to criticize, and to specify what you would like to be expecting, so that we can improve what we do and make sure that the next sessions will be even more interesting for you. That's it for my intro. Gianluca, are you online?
Okay.
Yes, good.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us. I leave you the screen
Okay.
to introduce your project. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Gianluca Galeota, project manager at Covivio, and I manage and coordinate the full process of the Vita project that we briefly present to you today. Next slide, please. Let me start with a few words about Covivio. With approximately 24 billion in asset under management and 8 billion in project under development, Covivio is one of the leading real estate companies in Europe. Listed on Euronext in Paris and on the Italian Stock Exchange, it has over 990 employees in Europe, including the city of Milan, Paris, and Berlin, and is active in the office, hotellerie, and residential sectors. Next slide, please. The breakdown of the portfolio shows our diversified model in Europe, offices in Italy, Germany, and France, hotels across Europe in more than 12 countries, and residential in Germany. Next slide, please. Talking about the Italian context, one of the most important urban regeneration projects of Covivio in Italy is Vite. Inspired by biophilic design, the project, called Vite, means vine in Italian and life in Latin. Vite is winner of the prestigious international competition Reinventing Cities, promoted by C40 and finalist for the MIPEM Award for Best Cultura Project category. Next slide, please. Vite will see the light in Via Serio in Milan. The intervention lot is currently a private car park and an area with spontaneous greenery grown around an abandoned spot facility. Vite is located near the Prada Foundation and a few steps from the business district of Covivio Symbiosis in the Porta Romana railway station area, one of the most promising and innovative development district of Milan. Next slide, please. Vite involves a team of partners that are leaders in the sector of sustainability and innovation, with each one capable of bringing great value to the project. It's the result of the partnership between developer, listed company, professional, people, private organization, and civil society. The project sees the participation of Carlo Ratti Associati, Innovation and Design Studio, and Abitec, environmental expert. The partners and consultants involved in the Vite team immediately contributed and enriched the design strategy. Next slide, please. Vite is our avant-garde project that summarizes our mission, combining the function of industrial office development project with advanced characteristics of innovation and sustainability. In this slide, you can see the main feature of Vite, which we'll see in detail in the next slides. Vite will carry out a mixed-use project of 10,000 square meters. The Vite building will host a molecular and oncological research center with a guest house dedicated to IFOM international researches, high-tech offices next to restaurants, and spaces for public and cultural events. This array function seeks to create harmony between nature and science, public and private life, like a reinterpretation of the social and spatial model of the artist houses. Next slide, please. The design also includes an open urban square over 5,000 square meters, accessible 24 hours a day for scientific and educational events, live show, exhibition, and temporary open-air exhibition and social events. These activities dedicated to the community are part of a rich calendar of periodic events that will be managed by a dedicated mobile phone app that, supported also by the use of QR codes and augmented reality systems, will provide a complete multimedia experience updated in real time. Next slide, please. In this slide, you can see the view of the park and the piazza for the events. Next slide, please. The design of the project is characterized by the green spiral that, from the square, rises above the roof of the building, is a public promenade with a pergola of vine accessible and surrounded by greenery that hosts activities dedicated to health and wellness. Next slide, please. Great attention has been given to the design of the offices. High quality office life ensures that people can access and use the natural landscape. The possibility of working anywhere is a fundamental element for the performance of every worker in the world. The picture shows the view on the terrace with shared garden. Next slide, please. Thanks to the high performance expected in terms of sustainability and energy efficiency, the project aims to reach the LEED Platinum and WELL Gold classification level of buildings. The Green Project also aims to achieve the better level of the biodiversity certification. An innovative technological system applied to the facade will allow the external envelope to adapt to the sun exposure, ensuring the most correct amount of shading and lighting. In addition, the highest floors of the building in the near-zero energy category will be made of wood, with the aim of reducing energy consumption while maintaining thermal comfort. Next slide, please. In conclusion, few words about the time schedule. The design phase is ongoing. The start of work is expected by end of this year, and the completion of work is expected by end of 2022. I hope to have given you an overview of the VITA project. Personally, I think it's a challenging and a highly innovative project, and I can't wait to start the construction works. Thanks for the attention.
Thank you very much, Gianluca, for this very interesting project. I am indeed expecting major challenges around the facade work or the vegetalization. I think I'm sure you have worked a lot on that, and that you still need to be very careful during the construction on those two aspects, because they are typically the critical aspects in that type of project. Like I said earlier, we'll have some room at the end of the session for Q&A, so you can stay online. And now it's time to introduce the first startup presentation of the day from Portugal. Pedro, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, thank you for being with us. So you'll be illustrating some of the aspects, like we say, like the mobile city, the resilient city, and frugal city. Go ahead.
Yes, can you please roll the video for a quick introduction?
There are millions of streetlights. With old and inefficient technology, they consume a lot of power from the grid and give one basic service: light. OmniFlow is a smart energy platform. It has a hybrid power system with energy storage and built-in IoT applications, with high-efficiency solar cells and a state-of-the-art omnidirectional wind technology. With included sensors, the light can adapt to people or vehicle motion. One single infrastructure with multiple services that uses renewables to power the future.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here today. So I'm here to present you the next generation of street poles. So, as stated in the beginning, a smart city is not all about sensors and technology. We think a crucial aspect is smart cities should also be sustainable. So that's our approach to this question. If you can pass the next slide, please. So our mission is to have a positive impact in the world, avoiding CO2 emissions, and at the same time expanding digitalization. Next slide, please. So we have this hybrid technology that we integrate both wind and solar, and it's a patent device. It's one-of-a-kind technology, but also inside of our unit, next slide, please. Inside of our unit, we have space for battery banks and also all kinds of optional technologies. All the units are connected to the internet, and we can receive all the information from our unit, and you can control it remotely. Next slide, please. So the biggest difference is that we can open the unit and customize to the customer needs. So it's a street light to start with, but that's just a basic service. We can put security cameras, edge computing device, small cells for 5G, public Wi-Fi, and so on. Next slide, please. So this is basically one infrastructure with multiple services. And we can also expand the number of services included in the pole itself. But most of the services are integrated on top. So we can use the existing poles and do retrofits using the existing poles. So this is a big advantage. Next slide, please. So this is one example of a small cell from an operator. In this case, this was Vodafone. And inside of our unit, we can integrate radio units, the antennas, the backhaul. So this is a base station, a complete base station integrated on top. And we just started the program with Orange for 5G deployment. So very exciting days coming up. Next slide, please. And this is how we integrate the security cameras. So they are integrated actually in the body of the unit, and we can have up to 4 sensors around the unit. Next slide, please. So we can track the full 360 degrees without using external cameras. Next slide, please. Okay, and we can use these cameras to do simple security, or we can do edge computing and do smart analytics, for example, for traffic or pedestrian analysis. Next slide. Or we can track social distance monitoring, for example. This is very recent, of course, motivated by the COVID. Next slide, please. We can also integrate on top of our unit a landing pad for drones, and this was already deployed and tested with Amazon and Verizon in the US. Next slide, please. So we also have urban furniture that we can integrate with the unit to provide extra functionalities like phone charging, micro-mobility charging and these kind of applications. Next slide. So our value proposition is simple. So we can provide 90% of energy reduction on the lighting, and on top of that, we put added value services like 5G, security, and so on. Next slide, please. So we are currently in more than 30 countries, and we have big partners like Siemens, Verizon, now Orange, Engie. We have deployed some units with them, and we look forward to talking to you. Thank you so much.
Perfect timing. Thank you very much. Like I say on the chat, you feel free, for all the participants, feel free to ask questions directly on the chat, and the entrepreneurs will answer directly on the chat as we go. So thank you, Pedro. Our next startup happened to be in Paris this morning, so I'm happy to be in the same room as Andreas, who will be pitching Cortexia.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I'm very happy to be here in Paris today. Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Andreas Fontenelle. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Cortexia. We help cities getting control over urban cleanliness while saving resources and costs and preserving the environment. So getting a city clean is a very big challenge for modern cities. Today, the sanitation department has no information where the streets are dirty. They clean according to habits and predefined planning, irrespective if the street was dirty or not. Cleaning has a big impact on the environment and comes also at very high costs. In Europe, we speak about or more than 50 euro per inhabitant per year. So under these conditions, how is it possible to get control over urban cleanliness? Thanks to artificial intelligence, we provide a precise and real-time monitoring of the cleanliness perception by the inhabitants, with an index ranging from 0, which is very dirty, to 5, which is very clean. The city will set a cleanliness target. For instance, the city of Zurich targets a cleanliness level between 3.5 and 3.7, and all the streets which match this quality level appear in green on the right-hand side, meaning this is okay. The streets which are above this target are too clean, and this can be a problem because they use costs and resources which would be better used in the red zones. So by driving cleaning with data, the city can really control the level of cleanliness and reduce the use of resources and the impact on the environment. How do we compute this cleanliness index? We have artificial intelligence detecting different kind of litters embedded on the vehicles of the city. So we have real-time onboard detection, preserving the privacy of in the public space. And we detect about 40 different kind of litter, the smallest item being the cigarette butt. Maybe you can show. So this is an example of detection. You will see different, on the right-hand side, different categories of litter which are detected and then computed to an index between 0 and 5. Some use cases. So we have the city of Basel. The sanitation department is accountable for the level of cleanliness, and they report monthly to the authorities who can communicate the cleanliness level with the inhabitants. They also reduced the number of vehicles in their fleet of sweepers by 20%, thanks monitoring and the better and precise use of cleanliness level. They also have, thanks to the monitoring, they will also target a zero carbon policy with 95% of EV vehicles by 2025. Next one. Geneva has led a campaign against cigarette butts, and for this they have monitored the city and found out which are the hotspots. They have also found out what are the root causes and have targeted specific actions to reduce cigarette butt littering. Now they're using the same approach to improve the trash bin efficiency. So we are replacing old trash bins, and we have measured that the new one have 50% less litter on the ground compared to the old one, even if we use 1/3 less litter bins. This is another way to improve urban cleanliness while reducing the environmental impact. And the next project will be Milano, so I'm happy to join my first speaker. This project has been postponed due to COVID, but it's a good example on how cities can use litter monitoring within their smart city management. And Milano has developed its own central control unit for urban sanitation. And today they already can track all their vehicles and measure the the filling rate of their bins. And having afterwards the layer of urban cleaning, of urban cleanliness, will help them to allocate their resources. So we will start again this project after the recovery of COVID. We sell our solution as a service, so we don't sell our hardware. We provide a service for a yearly fee. We already sold our prototypes in 2018-19. We have now ramping up our industrial solution and have recurrent sales with different cities and companies in France and in Europe and in Switzerland, sorry. And we also have very strong partners, for instance, Hewlett-Packard and NVIDIA. So with our solution, we help the city to get attractive and save resources, and we also help to preserve the environment. And we are happy to work with Impulse Partner to ramp up our solution with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Great topic. For your information, we just had the mayor race in Paris, and the studies were showing that the #1 concern for Parisians was cleanliness. So it's good for the environment, but it's also good for the mayor elections. Thanks again. We'll stay in Switzerland, if I can say, with Mathieu, who should be online.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mathieu, so I'm gonna present you Priceable. So we are a pure B2B SaaS company based on big data and artificial intelligence, and we are operating on the residential real estate market. Next, please. So we are present in more than 5 countries: Switzerland, Japan, Germany, Austria, and France. And we already have lots of industry leaders and B2B customers who already trust us. We are providing your clients an highly accurate valuation models that can evaluate the price or the rent of any residential property. We are a team of more than 60 people, 68 to be precise now, and we are in 4 offices now. Next, please. So our technology is an highly accurate valuation model, which can evaluate the price and rent of any residential property. But we are not only accurate, we also have an artificial intelligence explicable algorithm. For instance, we can precisely know what is the impact of having a balcony in a flat, for instance. That's one of the examples we like to give. And we also have a platform that gather in simple dashboard lots of other real estate market insights about the environment of the flat. Next, please. So we have 3 main types of clients. We have some advisors, so they are people who want to convert better, to build trust with their clients. So it's mainly realtors, bank, or mortgage intermediaries. So you can see the logo of your current clients. We also have explorers. So explorers are mainly developers. So they want to navigate the market and fine-tune the market price and the rent of their future new buildings. And we also have another type of clients, which are the optimizer. So it's mainly portfolio or property manager, as well as social housing clients. And they have issue about acquisition on their portfolio, optimization, tracking, monitoring, and they also need help in their exit or liquidation strategy. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mathieu. Very interesting to demonstrate the power of data analysis and web scraping around real estate and real estate development. Next, we're moving to Germany. Andreas, are you online?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me well?
Good. Yes, we can hear you very well. Go ahead.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Andreas. I'm one of the co-founders of Instagrid. Next slide. So Instagrid was founded in 2018 by Sebastian and me after resigning from a large German corporate. We are based in Stuttgart and we have a satellite office in Helsinki. We raised more than 10 million euros and to date we have grown the company to more than 30 people. And we left the company because we realized a problem that we thought needs a strong solution. So can you skip to the next slide? We have 1.8 billion people in the world where their work is mobile. If you think about construction workers, event technology, and so on. And the solution that they have today and that they have to rely on is based on technology from the last century. It's uncomfortable, it's inconvenient, it's polluting, and it's actually the most expensive way of generating mobile electricity. And what you see here is a picture of this solution. It's a genset and it's hooked up to a Hilti drill. And this is not a picture from a third world country, it's a picture across the street here in Ludwigsburg. So what we did is we took portable power to the 21st century by designing a battery-based portable power supply that is entirely tailored to the needs of professionals. Would be great if you could start the video now. So here you can see one of our first units in action. And the system is entirely tailored to the needs of professionals. So it outputs full grid power, 230 volts, 3.6 kilowatts. You can power any large machinery. It's compact, so it fits into any size of trunk. It's portable with one hand. It's robust, so it's waterproof. It can be used in harsh environments. And it has enough power to bring you through your workday. So it's no power portable without compromises. So the smart city problem that we are addressing is pollution. So one of these small gensets, and you see one in there, is emitting as much pollutants as 100 Euro 6 passenger cars. And this is not only consisting of CO2, but also NOx, particulate matters, and others. And these are hazardous to human beings. And within an electrified smart city, it is really hard to imagine that these devices will be tolerated. And we have already the green procurement policies installed in many of the C40 cities across Europe. And the acceptance of these gensets is decreasing quite rapidly. So what we did, we joined forces with the EU under the LIFE project umbrella to improve the air quality in urban areas. Next slide, please. So we want to replace fuel-driven generators that contribute to the zero emission practices to have cleaner air in cities by deploying our emission-free technology. And in the second step, we also want to contribute and assess to the green procurement policies that are established across Europe. Just to mention the Netherlands capital, Amsterdam or Rotterdam, which are on the forefront of this. And how will that happen? And please go to the next slide. Within the project, we are going to test 100 of our units with partners, which are large construction companies, municipalities, and the C40 cities in 8 EU countries, and accompany field testing with lab measurements performed by a German environmental state office. This will run for roughly 3 years, and we will have 24/7 monitoring. And the aim is not only to cut down the emissions by 100% at the point of use, but the hypothesis and the first calculations show that we can cut down the life cycle emissions by 83%. And that's the aim. So if you're interested in that, next slide. just write me an email or follow us on our social media channels. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I assume you need to have availability from equipment manufacturers, electrical equipment, and I'm sure you have a huge potential with equipment rental companies, because they could be the one accelerating your growth on the work sites. But thank you again. Last but not least, Nick, are you here?
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well.
So you're the star. Go ahead.
Whoever thought it was a good idea to allow me to do a monologue may regret that at a later point in time. But first, thank you for having me, and moreover, thanks for giving us the opportunity to chat a bit about Shibumi, the ecosystem, and Gulermak. You started off by saying that it's part of the ecosystem that can drive the change, and we are firm believers in that. And we think that Impulse is by far and away, one of the absolute stars that brings together, you were just saying the mayor of Paris as it pertains to a street. You bring together the investors, you bring together the large corporates, and that's exactly, what we need to do as an ecosystem to try and drive change. And I think it's really important, while we're all stuck behind computer screens, to realize that we do have a particularly great moment and opportunity, given COVID-19, given a variety of stimulus packages that are going to be coming up in Europe and North America and the Far East, to try and incorporate a lot of the digitalization, the cleaner street monitoring, the new ways to look at light and charging for electronic vehicles. It's so important that we take, I think, a very broad stroke approach to try and really make sure that the technologies that are available today are incorporated and try to be mandated by the governments who will be spending money in order to recover the economy in the wake of this unfortunate situation that we all find ourselves in. I'm going to talk a little bit about Shibumi. If we can jump a slide. I am not very friendly with PowerPoint, but we are an early stage investor. We've been around for 24 months. My partner Leonid is on the phone with me right now. We've made 6 investments to date. 5 of those have been in Europe and 1 is in Israel. We continue to stay very active in the investment space. Jump to the next slide. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of Gulermak. Gulermak is an international contractor who focus on heavy civil work and infrastructure, mainly focusing on transportation. We'll jump to the next slide. We're active across a range of markets. In terms of projects right now, we focus as far east as India with a stop in Dubai, where we just actually inaugurated the Dubai Metro yesterday evening, although it's in the news today, the $2.8 billion metro extension, partnered with Acciona of Spain and Alstom of France. We're active in our home country of Turkey. We have 10 ongoing projects in Poland, and we've picked up a bit of work in Sweden. As far as aspirational work, we look as far east as Vietnam and as far west as Canada. Can continue. As far as our organization goes, we are defined as a corporate venture capital company. However, a corporate VC tends to make one think about something that is specific to the construction company itself. Are we solving a supply chain issue? Are we solving something that can make our steel business function better? That is not what we do. We look at things that we believe solve problems to our built environment solutions. Can we find a better way to monitor waterproofing membranes to keep roofs from leaking or causing damage? Can we look at alternative ways to power our energy grid using high altitude drones in a system called airborne wind energy? That is not something that you would typically associate with a Turkish infrastructure contractor. So while we are a corporate VC, we tend to take a bit more of a broad stroke approach to the built environment. And we do that in two different ways. One way is direct venture investment, where we write pre-seed and seed stage checks. Those checks range from about 100,000 on up to $1 million. And then the other approach that we take, which is fairly unique, if we can jump to the next slide, although it doesn't say anything, but I do like the color, is what I would refer to as Venture Plus. As a 60-year-old family business, we have a number of assets related to heavy industry. We produce a significant amount of steel. Recently, we consolidated our steel operation into one location, and so we have some legacy assets that we'd like to invest in to create new industrial activity. In that regard, we look to pair venture dollars with parent company assets in order to create new manufacturing opportunities. We did that last year with an alternative stone product called Sustainable. We're looking to do that again this year, and that investment exceeds 1 million euros. Last year we invested about just over 3 million, and hopefully we can find some synergy to do that again. If we can jump to the next slide. When we tend to invest, we look at companies not from a financial point of view, but how we can add value. Are we able to affect this company's trajectory with our network, with our ability to provide opportunity, with our own experience? We are all directly out of the construction industry. Leonid was the CFO and head of business development for Russia's largest contractor. I used to work for a large US project management firm. And then, of course, we can draw on Gulermak's expertise, both from an industrial point of view, but also the range of projects that we have in any given year. We are not the size of a Vinci or a Bouygues, but we do about $1 billion a year in turnover across those markets. So we are a nice mid-size contractor with a fairly specific focus. Leonid made a great point this past January about our investment strategy, and he came up with a very controversial animal, which I happen to love, although not everyone loves it. I would be curious to know if people appreciate elephants or not. But when you look, I'm sure you're familiar with what's now called the spray and pray approach. That means that you make many investments because only several of them will survive. A fly, for example, lays thousands of eggs with the anticipation that only 1 or 2 will survive. We look at our approach a bit more like a family of elephants. It takes an elephant somewhere between 18 and 24 months to give birth. Therefore, we try and treat our investments a bit more like a family and a bit more targeted. I see that I'm running short on time, so let's talk about smart cities. Here I thought that I wouldn't be able to speak for 10 minutes. Jump to the next slide. You know, what we look at, or one quote that I like to use is from a friend who I will not name, but there's more sensor technology in your $45,000 car than in your $45 million bridge. And that should actually scare the shit out of you. Next slide. We need to be a lot more focused on applying digital tech to our buildings, to our infrastructure. I think the 4 examples that were given today were all outstanding examples, and all contribute to this broader trend that we refer to as smart cities. When you look, the industry simply has not kept up with technology, and everyone says that, but I think that it comes down to policymakers, the people who ultimately benefit from the technology, and the applicators, the startups, the investors, the corporates, who have the ability to make a difference, to leverage their collective power, purchasing power, their ability to lobby politicians, their ability to try and affect the coming infrastructure bills which we spend. Thomas, Thibault, Leonid, and myself, we talk often about how do we bring this topic of smart cities, this topic of construction technology, to be more mainstream. We would like to be featured at Web Summit. It is an aspiration of ours to be part of the mainstream tech community. where people are paying a hell of a lot more attention to how our buildings are built and constructed and the technology that can be used in them, as opposed to the technology that is around us in everyday life. I think we need a lot less TikTok and a lot more sensors detecting how our buildings behave and how we can make them a lot better. And I think you do that through coalitions. It's the coalitions that Toma talked about in the beginning, but it's also corporates working together, not being selfish, not being isolationist, but co-investing together in order to create a shared upside where that startup comes up and is able to work across the ecosystem, where you would be able to work for Bouygues or for Vinci on the same day. I apologize for picking on my French corporates today. But we should be incentivized to have both of them invest at the same time so that the startup and the broader ecosystem can realize value. How does that apply to smart cities? It applies because you really have to leverage these large companies, these policymakers, to incorporate this technology. I appreciate the 10 minutes. I hope I didn't blah, blah too much. Thank you, Toma. And to whoever made the decision to put me on, I hope that you continue to work in your current job.
Thank you very much, Nick, for sharing this thought on your strategy and your investment strategy, and also your nice choice of colors and animal preferences. Always very lively. I will hand over the microphone to my colleague Thibault, who will conclude this session today.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Thibault Le Séguillon, and I am a partner at Impulse. Next slide, please. Today we had a great set of speakers and startup. We started with Gianluca from Covivio, Italy, who presented the Vite project, an iconic project in Milan. It's an open innovation project based on partnership of leaders in sustainability. For example, they bring green in the building and they design high energy performance building. I think it's a great example of smart city of tomorrow today. Then we switched to our innovation startups. We started with Pedro from Omniflow, who shows us the next generation of street light with wind, solar, battery, and all kinds of sensors and services. I think they have developed, in my world, the Swiss Army knife of street poles. We went next to Switzerland with Andreas from Cortexia, who is sitting in Paris right now, of course, and they address a very simple age-old problem, how to clean a city. I think the Roman 2000 years ago already had that problem, but they bring image capture, edge computing, and AI. They bring very high-tech solution. Next, we went to Mathieu from Priceable, and he showed us how that thanks to big data and AI, they can determine the price or rent of any residential properties, but also aggregate available data around the assets you are looking at. And last, on the innovation front, we heard from Andreas from Instagrid, who talk about mobile worker who need power on site. In my view, it is hardware innovation at its best. It constitutes also to improve air quality in urban area. Then we went to our second anchor speaker, Nick, who presented in a very colorful way Shibumi and their investment strategy in the Contech and in the smart city field. He talked about elephants and smart city infrastructure and how to bring what we do, Contech, smart city, in the mainstream. Thank you to all of you, to all our speakers, to the startups. Great job today to share your innovation and your point of view with us. Next, please. So we are now at our second webinar, Impulse Talks, Digital and Low Carbon Future. We are going to skip August and we'll be back in September, where we'll address our third topic, Industry 4.0, on the 9th of September. And then we'll go back to our first topic we addressed in June, and we'll come back in October with digital construction. We'll cover smart city again in November and go to Industry 4.0 to close the year in December before Christmas. And we'll continue next year, of course, on this frequency, once a month, second Wednesday of the month, 3 p.m. Paris, Berlin, London, Rome, Madrid. Next, please. Impulse Talks, as I say, 9th of September, 3 p.m. in Paris, 2 in London, 4 in Tel Aviv, and 9 a.m. on the East Coast. We'll talk about Industry 4.0 and how technology is changing the way we manufacture, is improving productivity, predictive maintenance, etc. Next, please. Our partner, Batima, Challenge Startup Construction Tech is still open. We presented it last time. You can register until the 30th of October if you are a startup, and in the construction tech, I will highly encourage you to do so. Next. As Thomas mentioned at the beginning, we would love to hear from you. Your feedback is important to us. It's an ongoing process. We want to improve. Continuous improvement is part of who we are. And for that, we need to hear about our audience. You will have on the chat this link. You can scan it with your phone. If you type fast enough, you can type the address in your browser and give us your opinion of what you heard today. If you want to be put in contact directly with some of the startups, you can, of course, go on their website, or we will be delighted to facilitate a conversation between you and the startups. Next. And now we have a few minutes, 2-3 minutes for question and answers. I need to check the chat. Is there any question? Or you can go directly on the mic and ask your question either to our speakers or to our startups. I guess everybody has been very clear. No question on the elephants. I thought that Nick will say that elephants are too big horn and it's better than a unicorn. Okay, that's it for today. 1 hour, that's where we stop. Thank you very much for all of you to listen to our webinar, and I will wish you a great summer and see you again on the 9th of September. Ciao, bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.